That's Pfeiffer.
Welcome back, everybody. Frank Vespi here, joined by Mackenzie, Pfeiffer, John, Piassek. We're here to talk Maryland Racing Today. Maryland Racing Today podcast is powered by the Racing Biz, the racingbiz.com, and presented by our friends at Mackenzie's employer, the Maryland Jockey Club. We appreciate that. And please, while we're doing a little bit of housekeeping here, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate that. And we are in the top 200 podcasts among sports podcasts now on Apple. So we're happy about that. So please keep mashing the like and subscribe button, and we'll keep the momentum going. Guys, good to see you both. Let's dive right in here. Let's talk about, first of all, this end of the meet at Laurel last weekend. Celtic Contender, pretty good looking win to close things out. And John?
I was going to say, he was one of the top Maryland bred sprinters towards the end of 2024, won back-to-back stakes, including the Maryland Million Sprint. I was high on him last year, but he ended up going to the sidelines. Just came back now, and he beat a pretty nice field here on the inside. Now switching to the outside, that's Patinga's twin, who won the Dave's Friend Stakes last year. Towards the back of the pack, it's No Sense, who beat Prince of Jericho in his last start. And the Celtic Contender beats them really without much trouble. He set the pace through a very fast second quarter at him and still had plenty left in the tank. Considering that was his first start since late July, I thought it was very sharp, and he looks to be in line for a big 2026.
Yeah, looks probably back to stakes company. Mac, Yedsit, it's Yedsit's World. Jamie Neswin's training title. We've heard both of those things before.
And look, I think both of them really align with the theory that there's power in numbers, right? So Yedsit getting a lot of rides, but also some very good ones. Jamie Ness sends out a lot of horses, very competitively placed as well. And so really, when things come together that way, I can't say anything, but it's no real surprise, and just speaks to the strength that both of those operations, albeit a rider and his agent, and then what Jamie Ness is able to do with his barn across the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, when it all comes together, right? Mac, got an announcement this week, article up on the racingbiz.com about this. Flat racing returns to Fair Hill over Memorial Day weekend.
And not just flat racing, but turf racing specifically. And that's the buzzy word that really catches your eye. I'm excited. It looks to be a fun weekend, blending flat races and some steeplechase action on Sunday. Should be a great card. I heard from some of the jump riders that rode there in the fall and people who were out there that the turf course was beautiful. I was at Laurel, and so I wasn't able to get out there on that particular day, but really the course looks like it's begging for a little bit of action. So I think it'll be a very fun showcase, especially with everything the Mid-Atlantic puts forward as far as turf horses go. Excited to see sort of how that condition book shapes up and what races we have on offer, but really great opportunity for betting as well, I suspect.
Going to be flat racing Sunday and then jumps Memorial Day Monday. John, you were saying off air you were excited about this.
I am pumped. I mean, back when I worked in Maryland, everyone would always say, boy, it would be nice if we had racing back at Fair Hill. Racing nice back at Fair Hill would be great. They did have a day of racing last year on Labor Day Saturday. Didn't get that much hype, but there was still a lot of great action that day. And the most interesting part to me is that at least the flat races are going to be nationally simulcasted. Last year's were not. So should have pretty juicy pools, especially on that day. And I know you can't quite offer the same amount of post money as, say, a Kentucky Downs. But I do think that, but the overall vibes are very similar. It's an all grass course, mainly used for jump racing, and I think there's a lot of potential should this become an annual thing again.
Well, we'll see what happens. That's happening Memorial Day weekend. That's May 24, 25 up at the Fair Hill Training Center. So we'll look forward to that. John, want to move into the buying and selling portion of things. This one should be pretty easy for you. You buying Renegade after you absolutely obliterated the field in the Arkansas Derby?
especially with the defections of Ted Nafi and Paladin. I think Renegade is head and shoulders above the rest of this 3-year-old class. I was very high on him after his win in the Sam Davis 2 starts back. I was curious to see if he would validate his form in the Arkansas Derby, and he definitely did. He's in the process of making a big last of first move at the top of the stretch. He's going to swoop the group and win by open length, 4 of them to be exact, with a very impressive speed figure on every scale. As I alluded to just now, I'm not blown away by anybody else in this crop. Renegade has turned in back-to-back impressive efforts, and someone would really have to impress me this weekend for him to not be my Derby pick, even though I don't know how good of a price he'll get on him.
It was impressive the way he quickened away from him there. Mac, I'll give you a harder one. You buying Commandment after he won the Florida Derby and beat Chief Wallaby for the 2nd consecutive time?
Look, it is a harder one because the pace setup just wasn't really there. And over a track where we usually do see things a little bit more forwardly, Renegade was the one who really impressed me this weekend. So I am with John on that. I'm tepid or just sort of lukewarm with Commandment overall, though. I do think I need to feel like I'm getting a real value on him to bet him at a short price. I don't think I can bet him at a short price. I need to get a kind of value on him. Wouldn't be surprised if he's in the mix, but I'm not necessarily picking him as a horse on top coming out of that effort. It was impressive nonetheless, and I do think he put in a very good race. One thing to say, though, Renegade keeps getting better and better. Have we found a top? Commandment, there's room to argue maybe he has room to grow. So perhaps that is the angle you have to kind of look at those two when comparing them.
Is there anybody else you like out of the Florida Derby? Chief Wallaby, the Puma, whoever.
Look, the Puma quick back, I thought ran a huge race, kind of did some of the dirty work. I'm not really going to get off of him too much, but I'm just sort of curious to see what that race produces going forward and sort of taking it with a grain of salt. I do think Commandment was just the best horse on the day, though.
All right. Well, we got a big weekend coming up. We got Wood Memorial. We got the Bluegrass. So going to be a busy weekend at Derby preps. We'll look forward to that. We'll talk about it more next week. And then soon enough, we'll have to zero in on your guys' Derby picks, but that's a problem for a different day. All right, we got what do we got? 4 stakes at Laurel on Saturday. They comprise 80% of the late pick 5, and I'm gonna let you guys hash that out, and I'll come back at the end.
All right. Wish us luck. 11 races on this Saturday afternoon card. Certainly great betting opportunities across the board. That late pick 5 kicks off in race 7 with the Heavenly Cause. Now, before we dive in, John, give us an overview. Is there anywhere you think we can go ahead and single, or are you sort of going to spread around a little bit throughout the sequence?
We're not going to know a lot of that until later because a lot of the big horses in these races are also cross-entered in stakes at Aqueduct on the same day. I imagine that we'll get some clarity in the coming days as to who's going to run where. We are recording this on Wednesday morning, so hopefully by Thursday we'll know who, where at least some horses are going. That being said, I don't know if I have a single in this sequence. I think all these races are very competitive, and if anything, some horses who everyone is going to single, I'm a bit inclined to play against.
I think that's perfectly fair, and the ones who you mentioned might be cross-centered are probably the most likely singles if people are going to look for it. So worth sort of diving in. Now, the Heavenly Cause is going that 1-turn mile here at Laurel. It's for the 3-year-olds and up. Boutwell time, Take the Money Honey, 2 runners who were also entered at Aqueduct for the weekend. But how do we pick through this race overall?
So I imagine one is going to run here and one of them there. Hopefully, both of them run at Laurel, but we'll see how that plays out. I will say that it is a very competitive race, and I'm not so sure that it's that much easier of a spot than the Aqueduct Distaff. It's very competitive, and there's one filly in particular who we've talked about earlier on the podcast who is making her first stake start in over a year, and that's number 2, Ms. Notion for Phil Capuano and Forrest Boyce. She ran a huge race, second off the layoff last time out in an open first level allowance, which we're checking out here. Here she's sitting just off the pace. And when Forrest asks her the question, she makes a very nice move, kicks away to win by 2.5 lengths with a career best figure on the Brisnet scale of 92. I've always been pretty high on her. She has a fantastic pedigree, including Maryland bred Horse of the Year, Gin Talking, deep in her lines by perennial leading Maryland sire, Great Notion. She may have been injured when she tossed the Jockey in the Maryland Juvenile Fillies back in 2024. Ran well first off the year plus layoff, 2 starts back. As you can see, she's being challenged on her inside by Greek Heiress, along with odds-on choice Sassafrasness. And she really pulls away from them without much trouble. Now, this is a class test. It's a very nice field, including the likes of Complexity Jane, Atlantis Queen, coming off a big win in the Nellie Moors, plus the aforementioned Boutwell Time, and Take the Money Honey. I know she's never competed against older horses in stakes races, never gone beyond 7 furlongs, and this is a mile, but I think she has a very high ceiling. I think she'll be a great price. It would not be a surprise if she turned in a winning effort at hopefully a decent number.
I have to agree with you. Now, you see, through the lane, I felt she was still a little bit green, maybe needed that second race off the bench to step up, has reason to keep improving. That replay coming from that March 15th effort where we saw her get the better of Sassafrasness, who was able to take advantage of her in that 2-back effort. Spencer Tiara also came back to win impressively while stretching out from that 5.5 effort in the first off the bench. So very, very solid and legitimate performance in both of these 2 starts we've seen from her since turning 4 and making her way back to the races. Now, there is a little bit of a question for me here in that I think there are a few horses who want similar trips. Complexity Jane likely to be forward, but she lands inside here today. Take the Money Honey is proven versatile enough, but Boutwell Time, one of the ones who's cross-entered. What do you make of her? Because I thought she was pretty impressive 2-back at Laurel, and as a closing type, maybe the mile works out and just kind of leans into her favor here.
I mean, she got that kind of trip last time out in the Mrs. Claus Stakes, going the long 7 furlongs at Parks, where she got a trip off a decently contested pace, wore them down, and won by a neck. I mean, her closing kick has been just as potent going 6 furlongs, but I will say that, as you mentioned, the pace sets up well for her. I guess a big question with her is down that long 1/3 mile stretch, can she time her move properly? I mean, she just barely got up to win the Mrs. Claus last time out at 7 furlongs. She had open length wins 2 and 3 starts ago, but those were going shorter. It's definitely a non-zero possibility that she makes a powerful move on the turn, hits the front at the top of the stretch, realizes there's still a 1/4 mile left, and ends up flattening out. So I'm not quite sure how she'll respond to the 1/2 mile, but she's nonetheless a serious contender in my book.
I agree with you. Atlantis Queen gets leading rider Yedzid Hazelwood aboard. Shortening up here, do you have any concerns with that?
Not particularly. I mean, she's hit the board twice at a mile distance, so I don't think it's that much of a concern for her. I did like her win in the Nellie Moors last time, where she overcame a wide trip and won going away. Her 2 best figures on the Brisbane scale have come in her last 2 starts at Laurel, and I figure that she'll get a nice trip in the clear just off the pace on the outside.
Very good. And Take the Money Honey, always consistent, no matter the distance or the company. One you just can't deny, but fun race. We'll see where these runners end up going here, and probably follow along on X for those up-to-date selections on how to play that late pick 5. Race 8 comes in, and this is going to be our second stake on the card, the Frank Whiteley for the 3-year-olds and up. This one is going to be going 7 furlongs, though. Blue Kingdom, Worcester, Point Doom, Quince Brew, and a newcomer in Crab Daddy. Really interesting field here. Should have plenty of speed. Now, Point Doom and Quince Brew both have opportunities up in New York as well. We'll see where they go. I noticed Point Doom was also nominated to the Grade 3 Commonwealth at Keeneland as well. So coming off that last outing, you think they're just really thinking high, and this is kind of the horse at the right time in his career?
I mean, I remember after the General George, it sounded like both Point Doom and Quince Brew were pretty firmly committed to the Carter, especially Point Doom, who won the General George in very impressive fashion. So I'm not quite sure what to make of the fact that both of them are also entered here. I mean, I think Point Doom would be hard to beat even in Carter if his last 3 races are any indication. So, I mean, you don't want to overthink it too much, but I think it would be worth noting if he ended up going here rather than in New York.
Right. It definitely worth taking into consideration. Now, Blue Kingdom is one who is going to end up a short price, especially if Quince Brew goes to New York. And how do you play him here? Because I think we've seen a different version of him in these recent outings.
Yes, I mean, he was a pretty ride or die front runner last fall and in the early winter. He kind of changed his strategy after his start in the Bender 4 starts back, where he got into a destructive speed duel and finished well up the track. Ever since then, he's been kept just off the pace, and while he hasn't won, he's still run fantastic races. He lost photo finishes to Quince Brew last time out and 3 starts back. Outkicked Quince Brew and got second in the General George. Have to figure that he'll sit off the pace once again. Although if Point Doom doesn't go in here, it's going to open up the pace a little bit, and he could find himself on the front end for the first time in a while. And of course, he's proven that would not be a problem.
Yes, he certainly can get the job done from there. Wooster comes in, recently claimed from SF and Brittany Russell. Now, this is one who certainly has been competitive and makes a lot of sense. He looked absolutely fantastic, both last out and in the 2-back effort. Has beaten the right types of horses and certainly figures the 7 furlongs especially. I wanted to go to Crab Daddy, though. This is one who has always had a little bit of buzz around him, or at least early on, and maybe tapered off, but I've been pretty excited with what he's shown us recently in some of these trips.
And I'm hoping that either Point Doom and or Quince Brew stays in, because if they did, it would mean a much better price on Crab Daddy. And I think even with those two in the race, he would have a big shot. I mean, he is in quickly improving form. He's won back-to-back races here at Lowell, including a nice second-level win last time out on March 15th. One race before Ms. Notion, in fact, on that post-Virginia Derby Day card. You can see that he's sitting just off the pace on the inside. He's going to swing 4 wide at the top of the stretch. And here, it looks like he's kind of in trouble. You know, he's drifting further and further back. You don't quite know what to make of it. You know, maybe that second level jump was a bit too much for him too soon. But he's angling off the inside here. He's going to kick by very nicely. Matched his 2-back figure of 93 when he beat Prado Road, who came back to win his next start. 3 starts back, Crab Daddy was second to the very impressive Lonesome Road, who was a stakes winner at 2, stakes placed at 3. And here he is. Once he changes leads in the last 8th, he really accelerates past Rampagious. Now, obviously, these are much tougher horses than he's seen in quite a while, if ever. But my thought process with him is similar to mine with Ms. Notion. He has a lot of ability. He's getting good at the right time, and he's a great alternative to the likely favorites.
He really strikes me as a 7 furlong horse. 6 tries at the distance, 3 times in the winner's circle, 3 times finishing second. Really hard to deny his chances from that perspective. And I have to be honest, I liked him in those mile efforts, but I loved him once we got him to stretch back or shorten back up to the 7 furlongs. That's really where I just think he's done some of his best work. Now, my take on him, what we've seen from these past 2 trips that sort of solidifies things is Vargas has incredible timing with him. And that's really what I think it takes for him to kind of upset in this type of group. And we've seen it. It even says it in the running line, actually, from that 2-back effort where he just had that patient inside trip. And then same thing where he didn't panic. He didn't really force the issue when the field started to get away from him. Rampagious, a horse who has tons of speed. And really, I mean, you could say Rampagious did some of the dirty work, but I thought that was a pretty honest setup and really made a lot of sense. So that one perfectly timed move could certainly get Crab Daddy into the winner's circle. Quince Brew, we've covered him a bunch. He can do it inside, outer post, on the front end, coming from off of it. Forrest Boyce sticks aboard here, and I loved how confident he was last time out, though. Do you think we just go ahead and see a repeat?
Yes, but I don't know if a repeat is good enough to win this race. I've been pretty vocal that he is a very hard-knocking horse and worthy of respect, but I don't think he's quite the same horse that he was last year. He really had to dig in and fight to win both the Jennings and the Not for Love. Obviously, no one was going to beat Point Doom in the General George, but I would have liked to see a little bit more of a late punch than he showed. He was a well-beaten third. He's going up at odds-on in each of his last 4 starts, and he's barely won 2 of them while hitting the board in the other 2. So he's the type who likes to burn money, and I will let him beat me once again in the Carter. I do want to note that Quinsbrew is one of the ones who's cross-entered in the Carter, and Forrest Boyce is named as the jockey on him up there as well. Obviously we can't know what Forrest's travel itinerary right now looks like, but that would provide a bit of a hint as to where he's going to go on Saturday.
It certainly would. So we'll be keeping a close eye. And John, I know you're always on it, so we'll again just direct people to you on X to make sure that they have the latest, and I know you'll be putting it out as soon as we have notice. Now, race 9, our third stake on the card, Premonetta here for the 3-year-old girls and up. This one's a little bit shorter, though, going the 6 furlongs. Field of 5. Who do you go with? Because Dwelling Legacy just kind of grabs me after what we saw with her in these last 2 starts.
She's going to be tough to beat. I thought she ran a really nice race in the Connivu behind the aforementioned Take the Money Honey, set the pace. I was kind of overwhelmed by her, but did manage to hold on and finish second. Cruise on the lead, 2 starts back, albeit against just a 3-horse field. I think she will have a bit of a tougher time than usual, as she has a lot of speed, and there is some dangerous speed drawn to her direct inside in the Parks shipper Alani, who has hit the board in her last 3 tries at that track on the Cornucopia Stakes. There 4 starts ago, but is also quite successful here, hitting the board hitting the exacta, more specifically, in 3 out of her 4 starts here. I do think Alani has more tactical speed than Dwelling Legacy. I think Dwelling Legacy is a little more of a run and gun type. So I figure Yedzid is just going to hit the gas early, try to get to the rail and the lead. And if she can do so in the first 5 seconds, I think she'll be tough to catch.
I agree with you, especially in the sentiment that Alani has some more tactical speed. She's been very impressive with what she's been able to do. So Disco Ebo, one who we certainly know in the Mid-Atlantic, getting a very, very good second there with her. I certainly put a bit of weight behind that. Now, Wondrous is one who Brendan Walsh has entered. Angel Cruz named here. Looks like she finally just really put the pieces together last time out, coming in second off of the bench in that start. Do you think she can go ahead and take command here?
Yes, I do. And I'm curious to see what Angel elects to do with her, because in her previous 2 dirt starts, came from off the pace and didn't do that much. Last time out, battled through very fast early fractions, kicked away, albeit against first-level horses down at Fairgrounds. Granted, that race 2 starts back in particular was her first start off a 7-month layoff, so who knows if she was quite 100%, but the pace could set up for her very well. She has great late pace figures. If Dwelling Legacy, Alani, and also Twirling Beauty, who has a lot of speed from post 2, end up battling each other on the lead, she's really the only horse who has established late speed in this field, so she could take advantage if things get hot.
And now it's interesting you mentioned Twirling Beauty, because I do see her as sort of being the speed of the speed in here for that first opening jump. What I wanted to point out, though, is they took Lasix off last time out, and so she had run without Lasix before. She had finished second back in August, and then again in Stakes Company in September here at Laurel. Now, that was on the turf when we saw her here at Laurel, but she seems to have kind of figured some things out on the dirt. Perhaps she just worked out the right trip, but she comes in off a career best 90 buyer. It's just a huge jump up from what we had seen her in other starts.
That's my thing, is she really hadn't shown that kind of speed in a long time. and then she gets away with kind of uncontested with an uncontested pace at Aqueduct and ends up cruising, barring something very unexpected. She's not going to get an uncontested lead this time, so I think she'll find things a bit more difficult on the front end.
Certainly is possible. And interesting group of just sort of new faces. Is this a race where you just have to go ahead and spread around, though?
I think that you can use no more than 2. As of right now, if I had to lock in my picks at this moment, I would probably use both Alani and Wondrous, but that is subject to change as we get closer to race time.
Fair enough. And again, we'll just keep those updates coming. Race 10 here wraps up the stakes action, and a fun group. This time we're going to go 2 turns, a mile and an 1/8 here in the Native Dancer. And this is for 3-year-olds and up. A fun group. We see Late Night Call, one of the fillies, is there on the inside and very, very competitive when we saw her just last weekend on the 28th. Do you think she just keeps the momentum rolling when she faces this group?
I do not. I think Wild Vine is very strictly the one to beat. He ran a huge race on the lead last time out at Parks. He battled through a contested early pace, kicked away, and won with a career best figure on the Brisnet scale of 107. Now, he's no pure Parks wonder. He's raced here 6 times. He's won 3 times, all of them against upper-level allowance company. Yedzi Hazelwood, who rode him last time at Parks, keeps the mount on Saturday. He can go to the front. He can sit just off of it. I think he works out the trip and just blows the field away. I will say, if you want to try and beat a likely favorite, I think the most maybe intriguing horse to do it with is number 8, Raise Cane, for the dream team of Brittany and Sheldon Russell. He wasn't that great last time out at Colonial Downs, came in 3rd in the Royal New Kent Stakes, but he did run well here in his first start for the Russell Barn 2 starts back. That was his first start in almost a year. He had plenty of back class, but I didn't quite know what to expect of him. As it turns out, he ran huge, came from off the pace and won going away. So it's entirely possible that he recovers that form here and makes some noise.
I agree with you. Now, I'm not sure he's going to be much of a price is my only thing, but I do think the race sort of runs through Wild Vine and Raise Cane. I just have to forgive that last outing. I mean, they went so fast. I just don't think that's kind of the race that he's looking for, especially in a 4-horse field. But the 2 back, as you mentioned, super impressive to me and really did just kind of show that back class and put a spotlight on him here. So I go ahead and say between those 2, it's sort of interesting. Pay Billy, though, outer post here comes in off of a win where he took command over very good improving type and Indy Charges on. What price do you need to bet Pay Billy?
I'll take like, 4 or 5 to 1. I don't know if his ceiling is quite as high as that as Wild Vine or Raise Cane, but he didn't do anything wrong in his last start. As you said, he took advantage of the pace, kicked away, won nicely, continuing his ascending form since coming back off the layoff in late fall. It wouldn't be a shock to see him put it all together here, but I would demand some value.
I agree with you, and I think he gets bet down a little bit, but I don't think he's going to go off as the first or second choice. So realistically, that does probably place him around that 4 to 1 price. My only tick was, we hadn't really seen him take that step forward. His career top was an 85 buyer up until last time out, and that's what made me sort of question it. And what I felt we needed was to see him come back as a 4-year-old and improve off of that. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he did last time out. So now I can really kind of get behind him. I do like the outer post setup for him. And I think the pace will be honest in here. That last outing should have him well positioned that he can keep moving forward, and added ground shouldn't be an issue if we go off of that Tessio effort last year. Fun race though, and 9 horses. Hopefully that should stay intact. We'll see what we get out of that group, and interesting form for all of them really coming into it. But seems like we kind of agree. Wild Vine and Raise Cane, the race runs through. Pick 5 wraps up here in the 11th, and we'll be hoping we're alive here. Is there a horse you're going to try and single in, or you like to have a few options?
My top choice is Turfway Park Shepherd number 2, Sonic Sass. First off, the Jonathan Maldonado Claim. She made a nice move, a breaker maiden last time out, albeit against bottom-level maiden claimers, swooping the group, winning by 3/4 of a length. Turfway shippers tend to do well here, and I think she'll get a nice setup off the pace on the rail and run a very similar race as she did last time.
I have to agree with you. And I just thought it was impressive, her rallying from so far off the pace. We don't see horses make up that much ground, especially at Turfway, quite the way that she did. Now, maybe it was just the group that she caught on that particular day, taking class relief down from the 30 to the 7,500. She steps back up here today, though, to the 20, and one who's been consistent at the level, Last Gift. On the outside for Jose Corrales, ends up running here after getting the better of Hot Messness in that last outing. I thought that was a pretty gutsy performance and really did just show kind of she's sticking around with that career best form. We saw 3 back, and she was able to, in between horses, duel a little bit. I thought under a ride maybe a little bit early, but just looked confident and then never really looked back as well.
I mean, she's really shown her class. It's not too often that you see a 4-time winner who's only in April of their 3-year-old season. I think it's kind of interesting that Yedzid Hazelwood, who rode her in her last few starts, not named on her, Jose Vargas, is getting the call on this Jose Corrales trainee instead. There's some speed drawn to her inside, so I'm not sure if written from the outside post is going to do her a lot of favors, but as you mentioned, her class cannot be denied.
Now, you mentioned the horse Yedzid Hazelwood does get on. Now, Jamie Ness comes in. I mean, it's a perfect pairing, right? We're first week into the new meet, coming in with the connections for trainer and jockey title. Jamie Ness had Yedzid Hazelwood team up here. I have to mention, though, Ness is not one to shy away from digital sales, but we had a few weeks in a row where we saw a bunch of horses he purchased out of digital sales really perform strongly when switching over. And this filly is one of them. She broke her maiden over at Parks for the 25 last time out. Seemed to just go ahead and put together a really confident performance there. She comes back second off the bench, second start for the new connections, and she adds Lasix here today.
I mean, she did nothing in her first 3 starts. I figured that Jamie bought her as kind of a roll of the dice, nothing to lose proposition, because if she doesn't work out on the track, she'd be a fine broodmare. But she did run very well last time out at Parks, battled on the early pace and never looked back. If anything, 2-1 might have been kind of a gift in that field. I mean, it is her first start against winners, which I usually like, but it's such an outlier effort from her first 3 starts. I don't quite know if she's really put it all together or if she's a bit of a Parks fluke and she won't translate over to Laurel quite as well. But I think if you have the budget to spread in this last race, definitely throw her in.
I agree with you. And that's where, I kind of go with, I have to use a few options. She has to find her way in there. One thing I have seen from some of these, he buys them for a reasonable price. They come back for the maiden tag somewhere close to, but a little bit over what the purchase price was. Most of them have won. I should go ahead and put together a stat for that. And then second time out, they've actually held their own. I think maybe not as visually impressive as we've seen them first in the barn. I'm thinking of maybe Layson, but certainly has been able to go ahead and keep moving forward in those second starts. So, I'm not going to go cold on them, but I also don't really want to be single to them either.
Yeah, I agree. It's a nice race to end the sequence for sure.
Exactly. Hopefully gives you a few options in there, but fun 11 races here for a Saturday card. And we'll see if Frank has any other tips he wants to give us, or he's just going to play as we say.
I just do what you guys tell me to do, but good job there, guys. Appreciate it. Obviously, you reference this. Big question is going to be who's in and who's out. We got something like a half dozen horses that are cross-entered at Aqueduct, and my guess is some of them are going to go there and some of them are going to stay here, and we'll have to see. I think, personally, if Take the Money Honey were mine, I'd take a swing at a graded stakes win, but she's not, so we'll see what they do. But anyway, I appreciate it, guys. Good work. So as you said, we got racing only 2 days this weekend at Laurel, Friday and Saturday, 11 races Saturday to close out the weekend, Easter Sunday dark. but 4 stakes on Saturday. So that should be a lot of fun. And John and Mac just gave you some good ideas on how to play it. That's going to do it here for us on Maryland Racing Today, powered by the Racing Biz and presented by the Maryland Jockey Club. Thanks so much for visiting with us, everybody. And as I said at the beginning, please keep hitting the like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Mac, John, thank you so much. We'll catch you next week. And Maryland Racing Today will be back earlier in the week with an interview. And then Thursday, we'll do this whole handicapping thing again. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.